Sonic Talk.
Hello and welcome to Sonic Talk episode 444. There should be something numerically fascinating about that, but I can't think of one at the moment. It's just all the fours. It's like, a triple-digit bingo. Now, that would be a very long game, wouldn't it? But anyway, 444, welcome to us. It's the Music Technology Podcast. Welcome to our YouTube Live viewers and also our Periscope viewers. If I keep looking over there, I might, because comments keep coming up. We're streaming three ways. It's a bit of three-way action on 444. What can I say? Music technology, music production, all of those things. We're going to talk about that with our guests. And I want to say thank you very much to our show sponsors, Isotope, who will be running a competition a little bit later. If you entered last week, you'll be able to see if you won. If you haven't entered, then probably about halfway through the show, which will be, show runs about an hour, so about halfway through you'll be able to see it, so you can dip back in there. But it will be, of course, online, archived for your very deliberate, to watch later. I started so well into that sentence and then blew it. Right, let's say, I'm going to start over here with Mr. Gaz Williams. Gaz is over there in Bristol, producer, bass player, music technologist, currently mid-session. That shoulder you can see just to the right of him there is actually his client, who's very kindly given him a little bit of time off. We could have an anonymous wave. That would be most amusing.
Yes, so that is Mr. Duncan Gammon, or Lord Gammonshire, as he's more commonly referred to as from the band Schnauzer. But here is the industrial radio MIDI bass.
MIDI bass. Ooh.
And this is a really amazing thing. This is the thing that I debuted at the Sonicstate live show a couple of weeks back. Sadly, before the stream crashed. But I'm mentioning this now because it's all new for me, and what makes this special, and it's a very special MIDI bass in that each fret has got is segmented, and there's actually sensors under each fret. So I've been doing various tours over the years and different things using the Roland system, which uses a pitch to MIDI system with the inherent tracking issues of pitch, the latency. The lower the notes, the more latent. But this system is instantaneous. Really, you have this kind of. It's a very interesting relationship now.
Well, because you can. It's a combination, isn't it? Because it rather than just wait for the waveform, it's got some sensors in there that mean that because bass, obviously, the waveform is low, so it takes longer, so you get latency for it to figure out what the pitch is, right? But not so with.
Yeah, but not with this at all. I mean, every note is consistently the same. I mean, I think there is some inherent latency in MIDI.
Yes.
About 6 milliseconds or something.
Well, it can be as much as 10 or 20 if you've got a really crummy system.
But I've just done a gig with this at the weekend, and it turned out to be an amazing gig. So I just wanted to mention it really because I was driving the Erebus with it, and it was a really big gig. So it was really nice to play it out through a large system,
Well, the Erebus is one of those synths that when I was reviewing, the neighbours complained, so I'd imagine it was fairly fulsome.
Yeah, I mean, it really great. It really rocked the room. The gig was the Charlotte Church gig, this thing called the Pop Dungeon. It's gone down amazingly because it was at the All Tomorrow's Party Festival, which is it's actually almost more famous for the rather dodgy financial sort of actions of the company, leaving lots of people. But they've cancelled festivals, leaving people unpaid, and then they spring up again doing another festival, and people are still waiting for their money from the previous one. But they are essentially hipster festivals, really. They get sort of cool bands to curate the festival, and then they pick their favourite artists to play at the festival. So it's actually, the idea of it is brilliant, and I've played at one before. And different people, Matt Groening from, I don't know if I said that right, Groening
is
from
that The Simpsons?
Yeah, he curated one time, and there's all different people curate them. This time it was curated by the alternative comedian Stuart Lee.
All right, okay.
Very famous in Britain as being
That sounds fantastic. Maybe we can have some stories later. I should introduce our other guest while I'm at it.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. I didn't get to the meat of the story there. The meat, really, to be honest, was the fact that using the error bus, playing bass through a massive system, the envy that I felt towards keyboard players in the past. It was, when they've been playing, I go, oh, I just want that extra fundamental,
But you've got it now.
I got it. And
Excellent.
It was great.
Oh, that's very pleasing. A big system then. Well, thank you very much, Gaz. And we should also come over to Mr. Ty Unwin, who's looking resplendent with his new webcam, wide-angle action on all of those synthesized. Ty Unwin is, of course, film, TV composer, one of the busiest film and TV composers I know. Nice to have your time with us. And, of course, if you didn't catch it, Ty was also at our live gig on the 26th of March, which seems like an age ago, but actually wasn't that long ago.
Falling apart, yes. I was there falling apart. It was good.
Yeah, it was. Great fun.
Good.
Great fun indeed.
Fun, indeed. Yes. So,
how are you?
I'm good. Yeah. I'm busy, but... surprise. No, I'm busy, but good projects. Really good projects. And
does that mean you get to use your synths on them?
Well, yeah, two of them are... I've just kind of determined are... almost completely hardware based, so it's just it's like when you do so many commissions, it's just every now and again it's nice to put restrictions. So two of the jobs, one of them is going to be completely hardware, and the other one is going to be 80% hardware.
Right,
only hardware, no software whatsoever.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you're here, Ty. Always a pleasure. And, of course, introducing Mr. Jem Godfrey, who we haven't had for some time. Jem Godfrey, of course, similar kind of, does a lot of pop production, music production, same sort of thing, really. Beavers away in your own studio, although you're obviously out and about, because most times when I send you a request to come and join us, you're off up to town or whatever. How have you been, Jem?
I've been very well, yes. Thank you very much. It's only Wednesdays. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm just sat here twiddling my thumbs. It's only Wednesdays. But no, I'm very well, thank you. Yes, very well. The sun's shining and it's spring, and I'm happy.
That's it. And so, what's been happening in your world? I'm guessing things are going well. Is that a Jupiter 8 I can see behind you?
That?
Yes.
No, that's an ARP Quadra.
I thought that it looked at ARP. Wow, that was just as impressive looking, isn't it?
That's it's weirdly they almost sort of match. They're like part of a family pair, except one is considerably more reliable than the other.
Which is which?
Well, the Quadra's on the top, back from a rare visit home from the Menders, and then we've got the Dupe at the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. Though.
I can't quite. It's my lower thirds in the way. It's my terrible graphics. Oh, there we go.
Hang on.
It's your tower of power.
There we go. Yes. It's a marvelous thing. So I've got it all going through a Pod HDX or whatever it is. So it's kind of
wow.
It's making new and interesting sounds with it. So yeah,
that sounds great.
Good fun.
So what have you been up to? Have you been doing production, or
Yeah,
justify your absence, sir?
Well, I've been doing a lot of finishing off. There was the Eddie the Eagle film. There's a film in Britain. It's sort of largely fictitious biopic, but it's good film. It's a feel good film. Anyway, there's a soundtrack album accompanying it called Fly, which is it's like an 80s fest thing. Howard Jones is on it with Robbie.
Yeah.
And also business. So I produced and mixed co-produced, I should say, and mixed 4 tracks for Holly Johnson, Tony Hadley, the cast, which was Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman, and also Paul Young as well. So the Jupiter was very useful.
Oh, I can imagine.
So yeah, so it's been really good fun, but it's just it's all these things. Everything sort of ramps up to a mad crescendo of mastering, then it's finished.
Did you get to go to the premiere?
I did.
Oh, really? Excellent.
I actually did, yes, and it was. It's first time for me. It's an experience to walk on. It was actually blue carpet, and there's something really mentally confusing about walking on carpet outside in Leicester Square. It's kind of weird. So you sort of think I should be indoors, but I'm outdoors, and it was all good fun. And that's kind of what I've been up to, really. It's
amazing, actually. I was in London not that long ago, and the whole kind of machinery that surrounds the theatres there. There must be constantly OB trucks, and because they have all these cranes and hiring massive screens and all sorts of stuff around it. And I think when I was there, they were doing setting up for the beginning. It's the last. Oh, not Borat film. What was his film? Sacha Baron Cohen, his last film. I can't remember what it was. And they were setting up for that, and it was really, they had a big production with video switches and all that OB stuff. But yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, I think that, especially Leicester Square as well, there's an awful lot of premieres. So you tend to, it's like every other week there's scaffolding and lights and people going ah.
Yes, and, lots of screaming teenagers.
People, security going, get these people out of the way, get these people, and shouting and doing it. There's an awful lot of I just tend to kind of avoid that if I'm not in that area. But it seems to be kind of mecca now for Friday night screaming.
Yeah, it's funny actually. That reminds me of a story when I was there. There was I was just standing by the OB truck, just having a look around because I'm interested in video switching and stuff, as you can probably see from the background here. And this bloke just wandered up and sort of said, "Oh yeah, I was in the film." To somebody in the crew, said, "Yeah, I was in the film. I was just a walk-on part. I just wondered if there's any way I can blag my way in because I was an extra, And I just thought, what a great line. It didn't work at all, but I just thought that sort of thing must be happening by the seconds to various people surrounding it. Anyway, let's take a look at some stuff.
Hurrah!
Hey everybody, my name is Nick from Novation, and I'm here to talk to you about sample upload. It's probably my favorite feature from the new Circuit Components update because it allows you to totally customize Circuit into your own unique instrument. It's really easy to use. You simply drag and drop files from your computer onto Circuit, and you can load up your own drum sounds, but you're not limited to drum sounds. You can put Rhodes samples on here, you can put licks, you can put synth stads, you can even put vocal samples if you wanted. It's entirely up to you. So let's take a closer look and see how it works. You can
Well, let's not, actually, because we're going to talk about it instead. But this is big news. This is the Circuit. When it came out, it was kind of caused quite a stir because it was a self-contained thing, but also had all these limitations that everybody was moaning about, one of which was, can you put your own drum samples in there? And now you can. And this is kind of quite a big deal because it turns it into something very different. I think you get 60 seconds of sample time. You can chuck MP3s, you can chuck WAVs in there. There are multiple formats and over 64 slots. So it does become something else entirely when you've got the ability to sequence and run those things. Now, Gaz, you reviewed the Circuit, didn't you?
Yeah.
Is this exciting to you? Because it seems to completely change what the machine can do, to me. Just adding that feature alone.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, actually, it's rendered the review fairly obsolete in a way because many of the points that we were picking up on, or criticisms or whatever you want to call it, have largely been addressed with this, and that is the librarian aspect of it, and also the fact that you can customize those macros. One of the things that I felt was it was a little bit of a lottery. They said that in pairs that they were meant to somewhere be like envelopes, oscillators, envelopes, filters, LFOs, or something like that, roughly. And I think that's what they were roughly working to. But actually, it's quite interesting now with the advent of the editor. You can actually have a look at what's going on with those presets and see how many of them, the macros are made up of all sorts of stuff. So really, I think my review was right in that way, that it was quite confusing. It was just more like in that iteration, just all about exploring it and seeing what happened without necessarily understanding what's happening. However, now with this editor, and the editor has been developed independently of Novation, well, in conjunction with them, from Isotonic, and they've done a really good job. And it exists in two formats: as standalone, as like a kind of standalone Max-based thing, I guess it is, or as a Max for Live patch. I've tried it in both formats, and it's really great, actually, the editor. It's very well designed, and it's colour coordinated there. You can see it's got that sort of purpley colour indicating you're editing synth 1. Now, when you go to synth 2, there's like a kind of greeny, bluey kind of colour on the Circuit. It has a nice what's on the actual physical thing and what's on the editor is really nicely coordinated. Similarly, if you actually adjust the macros on the hardware, you'll see the color go. They use light intensities on the hardware to show.
Oh, so it mirrors all of that. Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, so they've done a very nice job in that way. Now, but of course, the editor is only one part of this thing, and it really is the sample import, as we've just mentioned. But also, I think a really interesting thing is the fact that they've decided to use
WebMIDI.
Web MIDI, yeah. So I've been using it with Google Chrome, and it worked flawlessly. And again, one of the criticisms in the review was that you could fill it up with patches, but that was it. You'd have to either record the patches out as MIDI. It was a kerfuffle if you wanted to save it.
Well, there's a couple. Yeah, the web MIDI thing is very interesting because it also transfers sample over MIDI, which, if anyone remembers sample dump standard over SysX as a kind of way of moving samples around, I'm really hoping it's way faster than that because that was torturous. But it also you can get an account. You basically log in. You use the web MIDI. It's a really interesting way of controlling things actually because it allows them to control the firmware, and also you can back up all the data to a cloud-based storage, which is another.
And that was the thing I was going to say, to the cloud-based storage, but that is very, very quick. So literally, once you've created an account, I think I logged in with my Gmail account, and then one click, and that was it, all backed up. Literally, maybe 2 seconds, something like that. So
what, and samples?
No. That was just the patterns and the scene memories or the session memories. That's the
other samples. How fast are the samples to get in there?
To be honest, when I went to do it to transfer some samples, the samples were too big and they were only about 3 megabytes. So I think you do have to really cut your samples back a little bit. It can take MP3s or WAV files, so I'm wondering whether it's actually a data restriction per sample. So it's only a small amount of memory.
I thought you could mix it up however you wanted. That's the impression I got. So you can't.
Yeah, you can. No, you can. But I went to load in some longer samples. I think, as I say, only about 3-4 meg, and it said that they were too long. So beyond that, I haven't actually gone any further with it, But the actual web implementation of that is very slick, and it literally is just drag and drop. You just drag and drop onto the square on your browser. So I think that side of it, that complete integration into the browser, is the interesting thing, and maybe points the way for future other products as well. Maybe good. I'm impressed.
Well, that sounds that well. I'm glad you've taken the time to have a look at that because obviously I don't have a circuit here. I don't know whether any of you guys are interested in this. I mean, obviously, you're studio-based stuff, so perhaps the circuit is not going to be so interesting. But I think for live use, just firing off a few samples, if you don't want to take a laptop and maybe you want to use some of those extra sound sources, have you had a chance to have a look at a circuit, Jem?
I've got to confess, I hadn't heard of it until last week when there was a sort of thing about it, I think, at the Messive. So it was kind of, it seems, I think Gaz is right, it seems like it's a step towards something, like it's a sort of, a step to a sort of more complete version of this sort of technology. I mean, because it's quite small. I'm not really a big fan of the kind of little boxes all connected with wires on a desktop thing, because because I am so studio based, I don't necessarily need to do that. And for live, I was just saying earlier, this Pioneer thing, this Torres, whatever it is, that seems to be kind of like a sort of, although it's not a synth, obviously, it's just a sort of sample playback device and sequencer. If I was going to go out live with something that I needed to play samples back with and didn't want to use a laptop, I'd probably go more towards that, which is why I find that's quite interesting. This thing, I mean, again, it's kind of, it's not really kind of an area where I have that much experience with, so it's interesting. But I can't really say much more than that.
No, that's fair enough. Ty, the man who has almost everything, has the circuit tempted you yet?
Not in the slightest. But that isn't because, that's only because I have to say I completely had no interest in it whatsoever when it was the version 1, the one that Gaz reviewed. I mean, I watched that and I'd seen all the spec for it, and it's just not my...
Not your thing.
It's not my thing. It's not the way I work. But I have to say, the way I think this update, I think it's really good, just because it takes it into something which is vaguely more interesting to me. And I think the sample import is, I think that's really useful. I mean, there's people complaining because there's only 60 seconds, which is absolutely ridiculous, because we all remember the days. I mean, I did a whole album on a Nest 3000 that had the basic 2 meg of memory in, and I did a whole album on that, and it sounded great, and it still sounds great now. And do you know what I mean? It's nothing to do with
Sure.
how much memory you can get in there. It's how you used it. And 60 seconds is quite a long time to fill with samples. And if you use it creatively, and also people forget that these days, and especially because of the cloud side of things, it's very much a self-contained project. So you do your project, and then, as Gaz says, you dump it. It goes to the cloud, and then you move on to the next one. It's not like you're having to sit there and feed in floppy disks like we've all had to. So it's I think it's great, and the editor's great because the Nova synths, that line of synths. I don't have any Novations, but every time I played with one, for what they are, they're great. And having two 6-note poly of those in there, it's for the money. Again, it's all down to the, we have to look at these things in terms of how good they are for the money. And I think, the nearest competitor is probably Electribe 2, which is another £100 odd. And if you've got 250 quid to spend, I can't really think of, you want that kind of groove box kind of thing. There's not really a better way of spending it, I wouldn't have said.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Sorry, Gaz.
Yeah, well, I just wondered, only before we just moved on very quickly, about the, and this kind of, again, refers back to the editor, something, just in case people are wondering, the circuit does have two completely independent synthesizer engines, Nova engines in there, and when you start playing around with the editor, the depth of those engines become apparent. Sort of what we've got. Like, I'm just trying to open it now so I can have a little look to remind myself. You got 20 destinations for the mod matrix that can have two sources per,
wow,
per slot.
That's
per
quite
slot.
a lot.
So, yeah,
wow.
And Scott. Quite a lot of interesting things. It's got wavetable synthesis in there. It's got a whole load of interesting stuff in the oscillators. So I guess what I'm saying is, now you have with the editor the full access to. It's not like a dumbed down. I was kind of somehow expecting it to maybe be a bit more dumbed down than it is. It's very deep. So. And the editor is well integrated, so you do find yourself making some pretty awesome sounding patches, and then and it works. You can just save it into your sessions quite easily. And but yeah, the macros become an interesting thing. So I'm setting it up to use it with the MIDI bass as a kind of companion to the error bus, like I did in the Sonic State show. And what I'm doing is I'm actually mapping the macros to be very predictable and very simple things that I like to use when I'm playing a MIDI bass. For instance, being able to get to just like amplitude release, which is an essential thing, and maybe just direct access to the filters I'm doing, and a few other bits and bobs. So just that's quite convenient for me in my peculiar sort of setup, but just to reiterate that point, really, that the synthesizer and of course there's the two independent 6-voice in there, it starts to look like a bit of a bargain compared to everything else. Because you take the as Ty said, the closest competitor is absolutely the latest Korg Electribes.
Yeah,
but when you look, those synth engines have nowhere near the complexity of this. This is really quite something else. So now, factor that in with the sample import, and also remembering that this is only, what do they call it, circuit components, like volume 1 or whatever they call it.
That's the thing they're saying, many more to come. So it'll be
more to come.
Curious to see what else they can get into there. We've talked about this before, the notion of sort of firmware expanding to fill the functions that you think you can use within the finite confines of a hardware unit. Obviously, it gets to a certain point where if you've got to press 3 keys and then move a knob with your elbow to get that mode, then obviously that becomes a little bit more complicated. But it's it's a good thing. Some people have even been moaning why didn't it do this in the first place, and it's just a really bizarre way of looking at things, I think. But there you go. So now we should probably take a word from our sponsors and enjoy a little bit of a break. So, coming up, word from Isotope. Honestly.
Produce rich, full, professional-sounding tracks with the critically acclaimed mastering tools in Ozone and Ozone Advanced. Now, the latest isotope innovations in Ozone 7 bring modern and vintage processing to the forefront of the music production experience. Updated for Ozone 7, Ozone's highly regarded maximizer features a brand new frequency-specific IRC4 algorithm that delivers transparent mixes with less pumping and distortion. Use it to smooth out an unwieldy mix, or tame the kick drum peaks without affecting the vocals. The Dynamic EQ, now in both the advanced and standard versions of Ozone, lives and breathes with your audio, giving you more effective control over your sound without coloring your entire mix. Harness the precision of an equalizer and the musical ballistics of a compressor in one integrated processor. New for Ozone 7, vintage-inspired processing puts nostalgic tone at your fingertips to bring the creative color and character of analog hardware to your digital recordings. Glue your mix together and bring a natural feel to harsh-sounding recordings with the Vintage Limiter. Vintage tape adds the dimension, warmth, and depth of tape saturation to your masters for a timeless sound that suits your creative vision. Brighten your...
Anyway, I won't play the whole thing, but I want to say thank you very much to iZotope for sponsoring the show. And indeed, they are sponsoring, because last week we asked you to tweet out the hashtag Super Audio Mix and the hashtag Ozone 7. And we have a winner from last week. They have actually won a copy of Ozone 7. And that is, they're called @Wagoo, WAGOO. And they tweeted rather cryptic message, which is Caroline Sharon Plop and Kieri Pamu loves the iZotope fairy. So I don't know whether perhaps the child in the family got access to the Twitter account and hijacked the message as it was being typed, or whether that means something to somebody. But as we say, thank you very much for entering. So that is the user @Wagoo on Twitter. If you get in touch and let me know who you are via email would be good, or via the contact us form on the site, then we'll be able to get the iZotope fairy to send you a copy of iZotope Ozone 7. And of course, we also have the competition for this week. That competition is in fact the same thing. You can win Ozone 7 again. If you want to, actually, you can check out Ozone 7 just by going to iZotope.com/ozone, and you can download it and check it out. But if you want to win it, you can tweet the hashtag Make It Sound Great, all one word, and the hashtag Ozone 7, that's the number 7, to @sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. That's the hashtag Make It Sound Great, all one word, the hashtag Ozone 7 to @sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. And you will be entered for the competition. Winner pick next week. Thank you very much for your sponsorship. Right. Anyway, that's that's a mouthful. So let's see, what shall we have next? Would you probably quickly mention, if any of you are out there on using QuickTime on the PC, we just heard that Apple have dropped support for QuickTime on the PC almost on the same day. There were a couple of there were a couple of announcements of vulnerabilities. In fact, this is the feds, the US certification. I'm not quite sure. They're basically saying alert TA 16105A, Apple ends support for QuickTime, and new vulnerabilities announced. And that was actually, so if you are using QuickTime on the PC, which mostly you're going to be using it for, it's probably going to be video playback in your DAW. If you're working to picture on a PC, you want to watch out for that stuff. Ty, that's not you, is it, by any chance?
No, it's not. I'm completely Mac. So, but I think it's really bad.
Yeah,
I'm sure someone said, is it with the PreSonus with the Studio One?
I think Studio One is affected. I mean, but not just Studio One. There's lots of DAWs that have with movie playback use QuickTime.
Yeah, I think it's
it's
really
heavy,
bad.
man.
Especially in terms of the date, so in other words, all of these issues that are occurring, people are going to have to get it off their machines simply because
it's not being supported. Apple aren't
going to do anything about it.
It does seem a little bit harsh, and the conspiracy theorists amongst us will probably be thinking all sorts of things about Apple's monopoly and all that, but it may just be a simple matter of, well, we don't really use, we're not about Windows, so I don't know. I don't know. Jem, I'm guessing this doesn't affect you either, does it?
It does in the sort of periphery, and the fact that we're shooting. I've revived my band Frost, and we're just sort of doing videos at the moment. and the guys we're working with, they use PCs to do the editing, and they're furious. It's just kind of it just seems to be an unnecessary extra hurdle for us all to have to kind of jump around, and it's like getting rid of headphone sockets on Mac, which I believe is next. It's just you just sort of everything's working very nicely, and then something like that happens. You think, it's infuriating. I think actually
this is the first time I can think of that it's caused a problem, because I'm obviously, most people just don't upgrade, stick with the working system. But this actually means your system could be compromised if you're not careful, I suppose. So that's the first time I've seen that happen. So that's more extreme than the general kind of general malaise that you get around updates.
I think this all kind of links in with a kind of philosophy that I've had recently, because people often every day of the week complain that I have too many synths and too much hardware and etc. etc. But there was a stage where I did what everyone else did, where I had loads of hardware and loads of synths, probably more than this, and then I kind of started going down towards being in the box, and there were just a few bits of software that I used all the time that stopped being supported, or when I did the transfer from PC to Mac and all that kind of thing. And I suddenly realised that if companies do exactly what Apple have done with this, and just for whatever reason stop supporting stuff, you can't do anything about it, as you say, other than carry on using an old system, which inevitably means that you have to keep the old system for this. I mean, I know Mark suffers from this a lot. But the new whatever will only work on the new system. And you end up where you realise you're completely at the hands of software developers, and you could end up with a completely non-functioning studio. And I think what I realised was, especially when Alchemy, for example, disappeared.
That's exactly right,
Yeah. And I suddenly just thought, do you know what? If I buy hardware, I know that I can switch the synth on that I bought 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago, and it's going to, as long as it's not broken, it's going to sound and do exactly what it did 30 years ago. And I know that all the stuff I've got here, I will be able to switch on in however long, and it will be doing exactly the same thing. It's my own destiny whether it works or doesn't work. And I find that very worrying. And so that's why, having completely done what everyone else has done and tried to get everything in the box, I have a great in-the-box system. But if that fell over tomorrow, honestly, if that all just completely went tits up tomorrow, I'd still have a completely functioning studio, just hardware-based.
That's a very good point. Although, if you're thinking about if you're using web MIDI for your editors of your various synths, then that's obviously network connected in a kind of roundabout way, so you never know. I know, Gaz, I suppose this probably doesn't affect you so much. I mean, QuickTime is supported. I mean, on the Mac still, obviously.
Yeah, and it's something that we've wondered about before, or certainly an idea that I've had about having some repository somewhere of like
machine images.
Yeah, machine images, like vanilla installs of a particular operating system with the everything optimal for that year, and just have it frozen in time, and somehow that be accessible from some sort of cloud, and you can just pull down that, as a way of getting back to those old archived projects. Why have Apple done this? What is their reason for this?
Well, who knows? I mean, it can't be cost, surely, because it's not like they're not the richest company in the entire universe with gazillions of pounds in the bank, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, maybe they're moving away from QuickTime totally, or I don't know. It's impossible to say, isn't it? Really? I mean, but that is a fair question.
But it does seem, it seems incredibly mean thing to do in a way, just because for many, many, many years it's been. Well, how long has it been available on a PC? I mean, I think I remember when QuickTime.
Oh God, 20 years.
20 years, probably, isn't
Possibly
it?
Longer. Yeah.
Ooh.
It's also it's the thing about the kind of the ever decreasing number of ports on your laptop, and all this kind of thing. As a musician, what I don't want to be doing is scurrying around trying to get things off the time machine because my thing doesn't work anymore, and all this kind of thing. It's sort of. All it does is it's supposed to be in the name of advancing technology, but it's actually, I think, hindering creativity in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's one thing that I mean, I guess the on the plus side, the plus side of the coin, we've got Web MIDI and Google, which seems to now have been utilised certainly in the circuit. So I've just noticed you've got a modular in the corner over there. Is that new as well?
Yeah, I've gone over to the dark side again. It's your fault. You're bad for my wallet. You are.
What have you got there, sir? I'm just trying to see if I can reckon. You've got that looks like a reasonably large cabinet full of things. So
yeah, I think the cabinet cost more than the modules did. Actually, it was kind of dear Mr. Lamont, but he's brilliant. I mean, it's fully powered. It's what have I got?
Did Ross Lamont make your cabinet?
He did. Yes,
I met him at Super Booth. He was a very interesting chap.
Yeah,
for those who don't know, Ross Lamont makes custom wood cabinets for Eurorack with lovely pieces of wood. There we go.
I can just go over and have a look. Hang on.
There we go. We're mobile.
Join me over in the cabinet.
Oh yeah, I can see some mutable instrument stuff.
Clouds. Got a dual ADSR up here. Got Demora and Scooper. Got a System 1, which is actually pretty. Can you see that there?
Yeah.
System 1. Got a Ramona Quad LFO. Got Braze, which is brilliant. Really love that. And yeah, it's just kind of. I mean, it's got a life of its own. Really, it's sort of. I just plug it up and let it go and record it, and it sort of chats to itself.
And how do you find the System 1 stuff integrates? So I've got, I think I've got some stuff coming from them shortly, which I want to check out. I mean, it's not new anymore, but I think the fact that you can configure it and make it do all sorts of things is starting to get quite exciting.
It is. I mean, if obviously it becomes monophonic when you're using it in a system, so the 4 notes thing doesn't work anymore. So it's kind of, unless you plug MIDI in the back, then you've got to have a little gap in the cabinet and stuff. But it's because of the more features you've got in, there is a little bit of sort of pushing with your nose and turning things to access stuff. But I think the sound of it's spot on. I mean, I really like it. It's a really useful, usable kind of oscillator. To have in the middle of all that, and it's very sort of controllable, and it spits out a lot of control as well. So it's sort of it's kind of bizarrely it's really sort of important sound actually for my rack.
Great, I'm glad to hear that. Right, there was another topic. Oh yeah, let's have a look at this. This is nice. Jesus, louder than I expected. This is the new, was an update to Wiggle. Oh, it's gone all drum and bass. I can't be having that.
Blimey.
But this is, they're called 2 Second Sense Audio. It's Wiggle has just got 1.02 upgrade. And it's quite an unusual instrument. It seems to have a kind of thing going on. I mean, because so many synths these days tend to be, fairly homogeneous. And I like the fact that this seems to have a bit of character. I mean, it's a 4 oscillator or a 4 sound source wave shaper with dynamic wave shaping. And you can the idea of Wiggle is the fact that you can draw either LFOs or envelopes, and there are 8 of those, does wave shaping, FM, and phase distortion. And there are some pretty cool things. I don't know if we'll be able to see this on here. There's all these little features, and this is quite... Oh. Is that actually... I haven't plugged it in, so you're not going to be able to hear that anyway. That's one thing I didn't. But you roll over, and you can see all these little examples and what have you. And I'm actually going to check this out. I think this could be quite a fun synthesizer to use. Has anybody... I know it's funny, isn't it? Because the mood is very much in hardware, obviously with a lot of people and certainly with some of you guests, but software still does have a role, and if it can do certain things that you do... I don't know, you were talking, Jem, that you're using hardware on some of the projects, but I'm guessing most of the time you're in the box and you're kind of looking out for interesting sounds and sources. What do you think? It's $99 and it will run most things. Does this look like something that you could use?
Yeah, I like the look of that. I also I was looking at the spec of it earlier. I like how you can record snippets from it and then drag them straight into your timeline, into your audio, sort of on your workstation. That's a really nice little touch, I thought, because it's kind of sometimes you can just be experimenting with stuff, and if you're just having a happy accident, you've actually captured it, and you can just immediately use that. So that's quite useful. I mean, there's a few of these soft synths around. Is it Serum, the other one that's sort of
Yeah, that's supposed to be amazing. I don't know what it's. The serum's quite heavy on the DSP, though, isn't it? I imagine this one might be as well, but I don't know.
It sounds a lot better. That's the thing.
Does it? Yeah. Serum. Yeah. Well, I guess so. I mean,
it's a lot better.
So do you know this synth, Ty? Have you?
No, I've only seen what I've seen online, and so I'm not going to make any, kind of completely definitive comments. But I think. It has a sound. It has a sound, and kind of I love soft synths. I've got loads of soft synths, and most of them, and it's great, and I love them. But I'm almost a bit sick of these synths that are being developed, basically just to do dubstep, drum and bass, and just don't particularly sound that good. They're just lots of distortion and. It just, honestly, from a sound point of view, it just did absolutely nothing for me. Just absolutely zilch. But I think in terms of facilities, it looks like it's got everything going for it in terms of facilities. It just didn't, from my point of view.
Well, that could just be the sound design that it chose for the demo, I suppose, couldn't it? I mean,
absolutely. Look, I've had ongoing discussions in the forums over the last few days, weeks about patches and sound design and all that kind of thing. But I don't know. It just seemed to have. It seemed to have a bit of a. I don't know. It had a sound about it that wasn't very appealing. In the same way that something like. I mean, I'll tell you what it reminded me of, and you reviewed this, Nick, so you know. It didn't sound a million miles away from the M Audio Venom. In that kind of very dirty, very. It has a sound, and to me, the best way that I've always described the Venom as is. It sounds plastic, if that makes sense. It sounds a very kind of plasticky sound, which in some instances is fantastic, and you really need that.
That's what you want, yeah.
So you want, and you can't get it from other things. But I don't know, everything I've heard, I went and listened to all the demos, and I just came away just thinking, great facility-wise, but sound-wise just didn't really do anything for me. Whereas Serum, for example, sounds fantastic.
Okay.
A similar concept, but it just sounds a lot better.
Right. Well, thank you very much for the input. Gaz?
Well, I think it's a beautiful design. I love the colour-coded aspect of it, and I love the fact that you can run it standalone and sort of full screen. So almost as a, as just a little environment to kind of get lost in. And I'm so frustrated with a lot of plugins when you run them internally and are kind of restricted to the graphical kind of limitations that within some. I don't know why those graphical limitations are there. I don't know if you know why.
I expect it's got something to do with
compatibility.
Yeah. Well, you have to produce a lot more stuff,
right, to make it scalable, I guess. Yeah. But I thought this looked quite nice, and it's definitely going to appeal to people who are massive users, I think, because there's a slightly similar approach to the way that you map stuff around, and but I love the color code. I love the color scheme of it. I just think it's got it looks friendly. I think I could. I'm quite interested in it. I think it looks really good. And absolutely, what Jem said about just being able to just quickly grab little samples as you go from it is cool. And it was making me think about modulants, which we looked at a short while ago. And again, that can run as a standalone sort of.
Oh gosh! Yes, I remember that. I got into it, and then it's just there's so many blooming things, aren't there, to try and keep up on.
Yes. Yeah, I mean,
modulants.
I think modulants is still. It's a bit hasn't advanced enough yet. I don't think, but it's really nice. It's got some nice. Got a lot of nice things about it. But this one's quite interesting at the price point that it's at as well, isn't it? Because it's not like super cheap, but it's also very affordable for what it does. And what's their legacy? Do we know anything about Sense?
No, I don't. The only thing I know is there's a chap called Nan Tang who we've seen at trade shows for long periods of time. He's called Music's Boy, and he runs some sort of music technology blogs in China, and we've seen him for years and years and years, and he's involved in it in some way. I don't know what exactly his role is, though.
But, it's something that has got such a lot of potential, and I just wonder with these things just how many times their potential will be reached, whether it has enough to occupy someone in it as a standalone, and to really get the most, because it's pretty wild what you can do with it, just the amount of modulations and the amount of stuff going on. So that would be interesting. But as Ty said, it's where the sound is, and if the sound don't cut it, then... But maybe that's the challenge as well, isn't it? Just maybe you could really, I don't know, just do such really weird stuff with it that it'll make its own sound. But you like the sound of it, Nick, you said?
There's something about it that I like, the movement and the potential there. I like the idea that you can that you can draw and use gesture, it seems, using the pad to kind of create these morphable LFO/envelopes that create all of those modulations. That's something that I thought looked had potential, but I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. I mean, I've got too many things. This is another thing that arrived just the other day. I've got the...
Whoa! 49.
The Seaboard 49, Rise 49, which I've been playing... I had a little bit of a play with it just to get it running, because I needed a keyboard and I was trying to play... What was I playing on it? Something or other. And that seemed to work. I got it working just in regular can I be a MIDI keyboard mode. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. So, I haven't had the opportunity, and it's just been a very busy time. But I think I will try and check this out if I do get the opportunity, or maybe we'll get someone else to review it. That's probably the best thing. I'll get someone to review it, and then I can see their review, which is what, of course, what we all do. Anyway, that's to secondsenseaudio.com, $99, AUVST, and it's just come out, version 1.0.2, 35 new presets. And there you go, all that kind of stuff. Right, let's have a look there. We've got a couple more topics. We're running out of time. I didn't believe it. So here's a couple of things. Perhaps we'll come to that DAW later, because that always... So, right, this was on Reddit. As I occasionally do, I sort of wander around looking for interesting topics. And this one came up, which was... what can I put over my Yamaha, I guess, HS5 woofers to keep my cat from biting them? And I thought, wow, that is a fairly random kind of studio problem to solve. But as we all have our own workspaces and we all have very specific issues within our studios that we have to solve through our own ingenuity, whether it be in the box, out the box, or, how do I reach that cable from there, that sort of thing. These are the sort of problems that we kind of deal with every day, perhaps not quite so extreme. So there's two questions here. Is how do you stop your cat from eating your subwoofers? Jem?
I know. Cats hate water. Throw a bucket of water over your subwoofer.
Okay, that's a one start.
Great idea.
Shut the door, I thought would be another one to your studio.
Yeah, that's it.
Don't let the cat in.
Buy a great big dog.
You could always put something over it, something that cats don't like as a possibility. I think, isn't tiger poo supposed to be particularly noxious to cats? So you could put a little piece of that in the
you'd
base. You'd
rather have that in your studio, obviously.
Well, clearly. Well, maybe there might be a sort of a version that's not so strong smelling.
As it's tearing your arm off, you can go, well, at least it solved the cat problem.
Yeah, there's no cat in a subwoofer. Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, and the second question is really what other unique problems have you solved recently through your own ingenuity? They're along the same sort of lines. I don't know if anyone's got any of those in the bag. I'm looking at you guys, because your studio is in a constant state of flux, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so I'm always looking for ways to try. I mean, I build it all up, get it all working lovely, and then have to tear stuff out to go and do something. I put some conduit along the wall here. That was really useful. So instead of having cables all on the floor, that was good. And you just get that from any sort of, like a B&Q or hardware stores. I'm flapping on this one.
Oh.
God.
Oh, yeah. No, we built a synth shelf, actually, here. I don't know if we can see that over there. No, it's too dark. But I got some metal shelves. It's like catering shelves that you can get, and it's just 2 meters wide, and it'll hold. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shelves. So it's got loads and loads and loads of potential on it. That seems to be the phone. I know that's going to be for me, but I'm not going to answer it. So there it goes. What about you, Ty? I mean, you've just had a reorganisation yourself, haven't you? I mean,
I'm still in the middle of doing it, but yeah. In years gone by, as we all did, we all used to live in IKEA basically, and whenever there was an issue, I always used to just go to IKEA because you could guarantee if you walked around the bottom the bottom floor of IKEA, you would just find stuff that solved issues you didn't even know you had. And so I used to love IKEA, but I have to say, I don't know really. Thing is, these days that you can find a solution to everything, because of Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and do you know what I mean?
There's always something.
There's always something. Someone's always brought out something somewhere. So, and now because of the wonders of the internet, you just Google whatever your issue is, and somewhere someone has got something to.
Yeah, or you think maybe I can solve it that way, and then you search it out and see if it is actually possible to solve it that way.
Absolutely.
And now, Jem, I'm looking at you, and you look like you're searching your archives. I can see the cogs whirring.
I can't quite think of as Ty says, Amazon's a brilliant solver of all your worries.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think, I've got a problem. The 24 hours later, no, I don't.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
I think everything's just so. So I can't really.
Well, there is something to be said for it all being just so, because if you don't change anything, then you don't need any solutions. I'm currently here. I'm trying to get everything off the floor and up onto the wall, so I'm hanging guitars off the walls, getting shelves so that we can put things up, so that the space here is clearer. Because it's starting. There's so much gear in here, and has to be so reconfigurable all the time for the shooting side of things that it just gets really messy really quickly. So I just need sort of storage. But because I was looking for this keyboard shelf, and there used to be these shoe mounting shelves which were designed to be at an angle with a little lip at the bottom.
I got some of them.
But they don't sell them anymore in IKEA. You can't buy that stuff anymore. So there's that whole strata of putting your keyboards on those is gone. It's just not there anymore. So IKEA have dropped their game. And I remember there was a video, I think it was doing the rounds, only as shortly as maybe 2 years ago, where they had a guy who was into records and music production, and his family basically treated him to a makeover, and they made this space wonderful, and it was keyboards and everything, including those, and almost none of those pieces of furniture are available in IKEA anymore, which is really disappointing. They should have a studio section, I think. Then they could get loads more people in. That would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they need loads more people in. Because every time I go, it's empty.
It's always
no one there.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. I always liken it a bit. It's a bit like waiting for a delayed plane in an airport at the checkout. That's the feeling I get from there. All these very pissed off people wondering why there aren't more tills open.
Yeah,
and a massive queue.
There's that scene in that film Kingsman, where they released that pheromone into the air, where everyone just suddenly has a massive fight in this church, and Colin Firth is just killing it. I was kind of feel at the checkout of IKEA that's about to happen at any moment. Right. Suddenly it'll just kind of
kick off.
There'll be stairs flying in the air and little self-assembly packets of nut bolts, and it just kind of it's not good for my health, IKEA.
Well, of course, Gaz, you spend a lot of time there because you're just round the corner. They have a very fine dining experience. I went for supper there not long ago. It was very good.
I know. I use it all the time for just the restaurant. It's just so cheap. God, you really stumped me with this one, though, Nick. I've got these things. We've talked about these things before. You use them
I got those. They're
little remote controls, and just having different parts. Like that lot behind me is all on one switch. There's a whole load of stuff here on other switches. But I'm finding I've got so many USB devices that having them all on at the same time is troublesome. So I've got different USB hubs which are associated with the different power supplies.
We should just quickly explain that what that does. It's like a remote control for an inline power socket, isn't it? That little white thing. So you have an inline power socket,
cheap,
and you can switch them on. So you can go number one. You plug an extension in, and that runs all that gear. So you can just basically remotely switch it on or off. That's very, very useful.
Yeah.
So what you're doing that with sets of USB devices?
Yeah, and then so when I want to sort of make sure the system's running well, is I'll turn the computer off, turn all the things off, and just decide which system I'm working with, turn it on, boot the computer then, just to try and eliminate some of that weird USB argument. I mean, I've got something in the region of 30 USB devices plugged in.
What's the theoretical maximum? I thought it was 14.
6. No.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's... Unless maybe right.
Hold on, I'm just looking that up now because that's.
I didn't know that. I thought it was like 64 or something.
USB hub maximum. Oh no, with 50. Oh no, hold on. 50 hubs. 127 apparently.
127. Yeah, I thought so.
Well, you're halfway there.
One of the ways I've tried to control my USB problems is by using a iConnect MIDI 4, which has got a USB hub functionality. So that's one way that I can take off a whole load of USB devices out of the system. And then when I bring that unit in, then it has all of that stuff connected to that, rather than it all being on the one computer's USB. So it's kind of...
Right,
share some of the USB load a little bit, but yeah. But you were mentioning too, I think one of the products I was quite interested in and becoming increasingly more interested in is the Radial Key Largo that's not out yet. It's a little kind of pedal, but it's sort of specifically aimed for keyboard players or people who use lots of synthesizers and bits and bobs. It's got like 3 stereo channels plus a USB class compliant USB audio interface, all built into a pedal.
Yeah. So it's just like a stereo keyboard mixer, but it's got a USB return as well. So it's class. Yeah. So you can have a USB audio coming in. Yeah. That looks really nice. Actually, I'm suggesting to them that what they should do is just a USB version of that.
That's why I was mentioning it, because I watched that feature and how cool that would be. We've seen it. Now, this is a subject that is something that I feel really strongly about, actually. We've seen it with the Roland MX1, sort of the IRA mixer, where that's got 4 USB hubs on it, but those are still only...
they're not class compliant.
No, so they still need to only be Roland things. Now, they opened it up, didn't they? So originally it was only the IRA products, but then they opened it up to allow the new JD series to access them. But really, I've been disappointed. This NAMM and Music Messe, there was no advancement really on that idea of aggregating, in standalone. And so many of these products have got USB in there, and just that single cable solution, and especially when they can provide power as well. If it's power, USB.
Well, if they're class compliant, I mean, I guess that's the thing. I suppose, that would be. We have talked about this before, and it's definitely something that would be interesting.
But why are manufacturers? I mean, maybe it is I don't understand why manufacturers aren't seizing this. I just don't understand, because it would
maybe it's just a nightmare.
It must be. That's the thing. It must be a nightmare. But I mean, class compliance means that it has to conform to very rigid rules. So
well, yeah, you think, but then to be fair, at the same time, if you've got multiple audio devices all coming in. And they've all got different sample rates, or they've all got other stuff going on, then there could be problems. I mean, a computer has got enough OS-based stuff in it, but if you're talking about, like, a pedal like this, I can't imagine it's got a whole heap of computing power in it. So you probably need a specific off-the-cuff there probably needs to be, there's a specific chipset that allows you to do this, but only in a basic, until someone makes the chipset that allows you to aggregate, then you're probably, unless you're going to build one yourself, it's going to cause problems. I don't know, Ty. Are you running into that USB issue, or do you? Because
oh yeah, it's ridiculous. I've got at the moment I've got 2 13 ports that are full, plus all the ones on the back of the machine. So it's about 30, and I have problems all over the place. But it's kind of just what it is, really. You just kind of accept that that's just how it is, and they're the issues you have, and some things don't work. I'm not one of these people who gets really et up about things that don't work. I've just kind of accepted now that
it's a computer. I
Well, do you know what I mean? It's. I used to get
totally
really
agree.
annoyed about it.
I can
And
understand.
it's honestly, it's just not worth it. You try it, you do your best, and if it's not gonna play that day, use something else. Do you know what I mean? Or do it a different way, or
leave it. It's
around.
not worth it.
Yeah.
As you often hear on a Saturday night when someone is fighting. Not Ty, obviously.
Can I just have a very quick rant? Actually, it's a nice rant, but I just want to kind of bring up the fact about people kicking off about in some of the forums, some of the sonicstate forums and whatever. I just want to kind of wave a little flag here and say, not particularly for me, because it's never normally, well, I've had the odd word said against me. Why are certain people in, do you know what I mean? Whether I don't think a lot of them are trolls. They just get very, very upset about other people having different opinions to themselves.
It's like,
and I know it's an ongoing thing, and I know you sit there and quite happily going, but this is life, and this is the internet, and this is the way it is. But I just want to sit here and go, we're all doing this for the same kind of reason. We all love technology, we all love gear, we all love sense, we all, kind of, this is why we're here, this is why we're doing what we do. And everybody is completely entitled to their own opinion.
I would
End
agree.
of story. Period. And if you don't agree, that's fine. Use it in have a constructive argument and say it in a nice and a pleasant way. And if it all ends with, I don't agree with you, we'll agree to disagree, that's it. End of story.
Yeah, no. Well, I as a long time webmaster, I can just say that in a beautiful world that would be the case, but it just isn't. People get very. I think it's to do with the disconnect, so that some people get quite het up about it, and there's this sort of there is a sort of weird sense of entitlement to one's time as well. It's like, well, I've just spent all this time reading whatever it is you've written or watching your video. And I'm really annoyed because you didn't do what I thought it was going to do, or whatever it may be. I get that quite a lot, and you just think, well, get your money back. I mean, what can I say? It's like, well, spend your time more wisely, young man, or whatever it may be. It's but that's just the nature of things. There was during Music Master and Superbooth, there was a particularly obnoxious gentleman making his views known. But what was really brilliant, because we do have anonymous comments, is a load of people just started impersonating him and making out that he was saying even more outrageous things, which actually I thought was a far better way of tackling it than trying to argue and then getting into these kind of heated and getting all personal. Just make out, and then it's just it becomes completely valueless what he said, which I thought was quite a funny way of doing it. Although I probably should get round to having logins and all of that sort of thing. It's one of those things that's on the list.
Sorry, I just wanted to have that.
No, I think that's fair.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because we're talking about the internet and all the great things the internet has brought, but where the internet went a bit wrong was to allow this veil of anonymity to sort of develop, where people could just hide behind these, cowardly kind of anonymous kind of things. And I think that over the years, people have just come to accept that as just the way it is, that you can just be a real,
dick,
arse twaddle,
Yeah. Well, that's true, but I think it's also, you don't get that so much on sites where you have to verify your identity.
I just think it's all Dave. I think it's all Dave Spears. I think
that's why he's not been there. He
hasn't appeared for ages, and I think he's just sitting there going,
he's ashamed.
Yeah,
he's ashamed of what he's been saying. Yeah, I think that's highly unlikely, but it's a nice theory. Anyway, I think that probably brings us to an end. I want to say thank you very much to all our live viewers, both in the chat room. Thank you very much for joining us, and also on YouTube Live. It's been great having you as well, and the handful of people we've had on Periscope. I haven't seen too many comments there, but we might try that again next week just to kind of see if we can build up, because as I've said, I'm just trying to basically, if we're doing this thing, we may as well get it out to as many people as we possibly can at the same time. So that's it for this week. Once again, I want to say thank you to our guests, but before we go, I'll just say quickly, if you want to enter the competition to win Isotope Ozone 7, tweet the hashtag #MakeItSoundGreat, all one word, and the hashtag Ozone7 to @sonicstate and @isotope inc. That's hashtag #MakeItSoundGreat and the hashtag Ozone7 to @sonicstate and @isotope inc. But now it just remains for me to say thank you very much to my guest. Jem Godfrey, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. You're welcome anytime, although Wednesdays are bad for you. I understand that. But anytime, please do come back.
Thank you very much. I shall do my very, very best.
And enjoy your synthesizers there as well. I'm quite jealous of that. I don't have anything like such a fulsome modular. And I've been after a Clouds for a very long time, but I just haven't been able to.
It's so hard to get hold of. I had to pay up front all kinds of strange and nefarious things I had to do. But yeah, it's brilliant.
Did you meet a man in a car park? Actually, speaking of IKEA furniture, that is an IKEA. I recognise that IKEA over your. Is that your left?
Yeah, well, just there we go. That's that problem solved. There we are.
It's no longer right. Well, we've got one of those as well. Anyway, Jem, thank you very much for having us. It's been a pleasure as ever. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
And Mr. Ty Unwin, thank you also for joining us. I am very pleased that you've. I like your new webcam. I think it's got a very good look to it.
Good.
And it's opened up the vista.
Well, there's a new baby being picked up on Monday as well. Quite a controversial one because it's going to be one. It's definitely going to be one of those. Why have you bought one of those moments?
Okay. Well, we don't know what it is.
No, I'm picking up a Mint Andromeda.
Okay.
Wow.
Well,
which is a real. It's a love or hate machine, but I've always quite fancied one. And,
I know Dave Spears has got one, and doesn't it depend on which revision you get? Because wasn't there a difference between Mark 1s and Mark 2 or something? I don't remember.
Well, I'm sure I'll be buying the wrong one.
I doubt it.
But picking one up on Monday, completely mint. So.
Oh, lovely. Well,
that's my weekend. Just looking and salivating, looking forward to that.
Excellent.
So, anyway, thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Ty. Thank you. And also, Mr. Gaz Williams, thank you for joining us too. Once again, thank you to your client for taking time out. I'm sure he's probably spent the time writing lyrics or some such thing, right?
Yeah, because I heard that the Andromedas were actually stopped being made because of animal cruelty. Apparently, in the oscillator chips, they were using shrew livers. Shrew livers.
Yeah. I heard
they
that.
needed something in the region of 250,000 shrew livers per
oscillator.
But I've heard that those go, and that's the problem as well. And then going out catching and having to make them yourself is a very time-consuming process.
Oh,
why
you cads!
Why is it every show we know that Gaz is going to come up with the title? So here we go. Shrew livers.
Shrew livers for oscillators. Yes. Anyway, thank you very much. If you're still watching, we've got the Volca FM review coming up shortly, which I've finished. I will give you a little heads up. There's something that's not quite as it seems about this, which is maybe something that affects your decision to buy or not. And I think I'll leave that as a tease, shall I? Perhaps we can talk about that after the show's over. But that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, if you watched via YouTube or anywhere else, come and subscribe to the channel. We're on a drive to get those subscriber numbers up. Thank you very much. Thank you on Periscope. That's it for this week. Thank you, and I'll fade to black.